Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Trust you had a good weekend. We had a long one because of the Eid celebrations and it was a lot of fun. Let me start with some macro thoughts. In case you missed another fat finger trade, gold plunged after 1.8 million ounces were traded in 1 minute. However, we've had a small recovery from there. We got, I think, as low as about 12.39. New York's Bill Dudley says easier financial conditions, muted markets means the Fed's communication has been effective. And essentially, with stocks and bonds both rallying, US financial conditions are easing and are now the loosest in over 2 years, according to Goldman. And I think that's what's encouraging the Fed to be quite hawkish in its language. And I think, the markets might be missing this component. They've rallied 10-year yields incredibly across most markets. And then the US velocity of money falling, said David Inglis. Take a look at that as well. And I couldn't resist this, and you've got to think about the words, because I certainly had to. A regime shift in volatility could be best captured with long convexity exposure combined with tactical shorts rather than tail risk strategies betting on mean reverting volatility spikes. And then on that note, vanishing volatility, it gives you another example of it. Home thoughts, I like this. A Palestinian woman holds balloons near the Dome of the Rock at the al-Aqsa mosque on the occasion of Eid. Came across this fellow, Indigenous X is how he goes around Twitter, 16 days of walking. Thought the Western Desert in summer, and I have survived, now reaching Warburton Town. I've been reading, amongst other books, Wilfred Thesinger for the first time. So Wilfred Patrick Thesinger was also called Mubarak bin London, the Blessed One of London. The book I've been reading was actually something he wrote when he was about 24 years old, the Danakil Diary, Journeys through Abyssinia, 1930 to 1934. Considered the greatest living explorer, the Danakil Diary is the account of two journeys Thesinger made into the Danakil country in Abyssinia, now Ethiopia, at the age of 24, which today he still regards as the most dangerous he undertook. It was an extraordinary journey and a remarkable achievement. Thesinger succeeded in penetrating country that had wiped out 2 Italian expeditions and an Egyptian before him. Discovered what happened to the Awash River, one of the area's last geographical mysteries to be solved, and managed to survive amongst the Danakil tribesmen, to whom a man's status depended on the number of men he had killed and castrated. Besides giving early proof of Thesinger's descriptive genius with his portrayal of the beautiful and savage landscapes and their varied wildlife, the Danakil Diary reveals youthful evidence of his fierce motivation and uncompromising will, which are familiar hallmarks of his 60 years of travel among primitive peoples in some of the harshest and remotest areas of the world. Very good book, very descriptive. In the early evening, Dad always asks me for a whiskey. I always recall a story of my grandfather's brother who was not very well, a bit of a bon vivant. And he had just one daughter who was taking care of him, and Mum used to tell me how he was very ill and asked his daughter for his favorite whiskey, and she would refuse. So when Dad asks, I dilute a whiskey and give it to him. But last night, around midnight, all I could hear was a screaming, and I went downstairs, and he says, do you see them? There are at least 50 unauthorized people in the house, he told me. So now I'm desisting from fulfilling his drinking wishes, particularly as Nisha scolded me and told me that he's taking some strong medicine, but it's a difficult one to sort of push back. Tories agree £1 billion DUP deal to prop up Theresa May's minority government. This is price of their support. I don't think it's very sustainable for any lengthy period of time. Funnily enough, the BBC didn't show you this angle of Jeremy Corbyn speaking to the huge crowd at Glastonbury. He is the coming man. English version of Sy Hersh's latest bombshell piece stating US intel believed Assad didn't use sarin last April. The report is in Welt. Intelligence officials doubted the alleged sarin gas attack at Khan Sheikhoun. Welt am Sonntag presents a chat protocol of a security advisor and an active American soldier on duty at a key base in the region. And you've got to read it to see what's going on. It's pretty incredible. It's very credible. And somebody else writing about this Hersh intercepts as Marine General Joseph Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and former Marine General, now Defense Secretary James Mad Dog Mattis, ordered the attacks, apparently knowing that the reason given was what one of Hersh's sources called a fairy tale. They then left it to Trump's National Security Advisor, General H.R. McMaster, to further the deceit with the help of a compliant mainstream media, which broke from its current tradition of distrusting whatever Trump says in favor of its older tradition of favoring regime change in Syria and trusting pretty much whatever the rebels claim. And then I saw this morning the Trump administration warned Syria over suspected plans for chemical attack. Obama's secret struggle to punish Russia for Putin's election assault is an article in the Washington Post, very interesting, very in-depth, and essentially laying the charge that the president choked at dealing with this Russian interference. And you remember my piece, we have a deviate tomahawk, and largely confirming what I was saying then, where I said my starting point is that the election of President Trump, because hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. 538, President Trump has a 39.6% approval rating. And in my weekend piece, which I won't read in full, but I'll just read excerpts, I said, President Trump continues to stay a step ahead of the Manchurian candidate charge. But consider how much uncertainty the charge has imported. And I said, make no mistake, Russia intervened. Yes, it was non-linear, but it was a substantive intervention. And to be frank, President Obama choked. 3/4 of the world has little or no confidence in President Trump puke global fines, and I thought to myself, he's probably taking that number as a badge of honor. End of an era, Russian ambassador Kislyak's goodbye party is set for July the 11th. Of course, he was a key figure in all this interference. A family coup in Saudi Arabia, Nick Butler's blob. A week ago, I heard a faint rumour of an intense quarrel within the Saudi royal family, which was presumed to be focused on an attempt to force King Salman to rein in his son, the 31-year-old Deputy Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, and to return the country to something closer to normality after 3 years of chaotic ambition and growing instability. I started to draft a piece discussing how such a coup could shape the oil market and what action Saudi, under new leadership, could take to halt the continuing fall in prices. Now it seems the rumor was correct, but the presumption was mistaken. The winner of the coup was not, as expected, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, but MBS himself, who has deposed the Crown Prince and taken full authority over everything, including the key role of internal security. Prince Nayef, one of the most experienced and respected of the Saudi leaders, has been shown in a humiliating picture, kneeling in supplication. There is something Shakespearean about what is happening. Who better to chronicle The unraveling story of the House of Saud, an ailing king breaks the delicate balance of the ruling family to promote his son, a young man whose vanity can be exploited by every breed of consultant and banker over the trusted heir apparent. All this against the background of falling revenues from the kingdom's one source of wealth, hostility from neighbours and sometimes friends, in the context of a region split by the revival of religious conflicts. We are somehow between King Lear and Richard II. The market reacted negatively to the news, marking the oil price down again. Sole consolation is that we're only at the end of Act 1. Saudis isolated, except perhaps for a rather unreliable ally in Washington. Its actions in Yemen have heightened the tensions in the region to no great effect and have exposed the weakness of the kingdom's own defense forces. The resentment against the Saudi decision to allow oil prices to fall is intense and spreads across OPEC and beyond. History suggests that a power grab is not a maneuver that produces long-term success. It generates instability. The absence of legitimacy creates a vacuum that challenges will seek to fill. In the end, the imperative of survival favors those who can bring stability and order. One of the common features of many of Shakespeare's plays is that order finally emerges from chaos, but there are several acts to come before we reach that point. For the moment, the newly appointed Crown Prince would do well to dwell on the meaning of Shakespeare's comment in Henry IV, Part 2, "Uneasy lies the head that wears a crown." You will recall how when he was asked whether he was ready to negotiate with Iran, he said, "How can I communicate with them while they prepare for the arrival of al-Mahdi al-Montazar?" 8th of May, I also said reserves have been depleted from Abuja to Riyadh, from Luanda to Caracas, and in all the oil-producing capitals in the world. And I said in many capitals they're fiddling while sitting on a tinderbox and playing with matches. In my article over the weekend, I said the once sick man of Europe has got its mojo back with the wizardry of French President Emmanuel Macron changing the European narrative via an abracadabra type magic trick. And then I was also talking about OBOR, OBOR, One Belt, One Road, and I said the destination of OBOR is Beijing. All the roads and railways lead to one destination, President Xi Jinping's Beijing. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro, dollar, 111.96, dollar index 97.34, Japanese yen 111.68, Swiss franc 0.9721, the pound 127.32, the Aussie looks as if it's popped 7.7604, Indian rupee 64.555, South Korean won 11.3740, the Rial 329.61, Egyptian pound 18.1415, and the Rand 12.8625. Dollar index, let's take a look at a longer term chart. I think we're finding support around here, but it's very yield driven at the moment. Euro dollar, I think we're eventually headed to 114.50, but it might take a little bit longer. UK 2's 10 yield curve flattens further, 77.5 basis points, the flattest in over 8 months. Folks are expecting a very shallow gradient on any interest rate rises. JP Morgan changed its Bank of England call, now sees a 25 basis point rate hike in mid-2018 versus 2019 previously, with a further 50 basis point increase in 2019. The average price of a pre-owned business jet has fallen from $13.7 million in April 2014 to $8.9 million today. SpiceJet is the world's best top-performing airline, and according to Bloomberg, still has room to go. There was a sharp $10 sudden sell-off in gold, and said it's largely blamed on a fat finger error, apparently. Gold, I'll put up a longer-term chart. We're in sort of two minds here. I think we've been resisted at 1300. We've got strong support below 1240. Welcome to the booming Texas port at the center of US oil exports. This is all about shale production. And I said, previously, the shale cowboys of OPEC over a proverbial barrel. Shale can turn the tap on faster than OPEC can turn it off. Bloomberg gadflies speculating that OPEC seems to have lost touch with the reality. I think they're absolutely right. JP Morgan has cut its Brent forecast in Q3 and Q4 to $50 and $52 a barrel, down from 56 and 57. I'll put up a longer-term chart of crude oil. We're currently at $43.80. My target is $32. And I was saying in my article over the weekend that the tape is your telescope, and in matters crude oil, the recent price action continues to signal we are in an uncharted and disjunctive territory. Emerging markets, by demanding the end of Al Jazeera, Saudi Arabia is trying to turn Qatar into a vassal state, says Robert Fisk. So serious has the Saudi-Qatar crisis now become that the Qatari foreign minister is reportedly planning an emergency trip to Washington in the next few days in the hope that the Trump regime can save his emirate. Crown Prince, of course, 31-year-old MBS, and I said he's surely plotting an incision into Doha and a regime change. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia decapitated its Crown Prince and appointed a 31-year-old MBS, and I said big things are popping all over the financial world. And I was describing a story where the Crown Prince allegedly, while on holiday, liked a yacht, cut a check for $550 million on the spot and threw the owner overboard. I've written several pieces on this subject, rolling over Qatar, soft power, and Al Jazeera. Here's how Philippine markets look about 1 year into President Duterte's term. That's from David Inglis. The last time stocks in Taiwan were at these levels, MC Hammers, you can't touch this, was climbing the Billboard charts, according to David Inglis again. Only $18.2 million of the $2 billion total debt from the three deals has so far reached loaning companies in Mozambique. This is the tuna boat scandal. Angola's corrupt building boom, like opening a window and throwing out money, hard-hitting article in the New York Times. President Zuma, we congratulate you, Mr. President, on the progress achieved thus far and the manner with which you have handled the process. President Zuma standing by President Kabila. However, an interesting article in Strife blog, Political Transition or Violent Coup, mapping potential scenarios in the DRC. Have a read. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. It's quite interesting. I like this photograph of the river in the Congo. Mugabe, the juggler, is saying Africa Confidential. Harare is abuzz with speculation about upheavals in the ruling party which could change the succession game. Vital meeting of the Politburo of the ZANU PF was due to take place as Africa Confidential went to press. The two main contending factions consist of Team Lacoste, which as successor favors Managua, whose nickname is Gwenya Crocodile, the symbol of the Lacoste fashion brand, and Generation 40. Interesting perspective into saying how President Mugabe plays one off against the other. South African oil shares at a January low, up 1.25% this year. The RAN IROT, which is hovering around 13, is seemingly much more resilient in the face of some serious Zupta shenanigans. And I was just saying that's a signal of the liquidity that's come back into Africa. Dollar versus Rand, sort of in the mid-range, 1286, nothing to do here really right now. The summary, the mummy of Queen Tayi, King Akhenaten's mother, the Valley of the Kings, Luxor, Egypt, Old Pix archive, Egyptian pound, stable at this area of 18.14. Nigeria's Buhari sent his first message since May 7th. Audio broadcast to mark the end of the Ramadan fast, his first public message since he went on medical leave on May the 7th. But this was strange. The recording in the Hausa language spoken by Nigerians in the predominantly Muslim north was sent to radio stations and shared by the presidency. Buhari thanked Nigerians for their prayers, for his well-being, and asked them to avoid divisive speeches. African stock markets have rallied sharply. The Nigerian all-share rallied 39.84% from March 6 through June 20, but it's now correcting. The Nigerian all-share is up 19.53% this year, but it's corrected 6.55% since the 20th of June. Ghana Stock Composite Index up 15.31% this year. President Kenyatta pledged investment plan in hunt for votes. Jubilee Party pledged to transform East Africa's largest economy into a middle-income nation by 2022 by boosting investment in public infrastructure and technology and offering increased financing for small businesses. Our Eurobonds have done rather well. The 2024 Eurobond is up year-to-date 10.3%. Total return over 12 months is 17.5%. Nakumat has been caught in the crossfire of social media and saw fit to say yesterday that they wish to advise customers to ignore the erroneous and false rumours suggesting that we are closing 8 stores. The migration is getting closer to Salah's camp. This is a lovely photograph. I liked it. The shilling is at 103.65. In my article over the weekend, I said it might well be the world's most stable currency today, exhibited extreme alpha, and in fact probably the most stable freely traded currency not only in Africa but in the world. I was talking to Sheila Mabijwe, Central Bank of Kenya Deputy Governor, and she noted that if we stripped out food inflation, the inflation basket will soon turn negative. Government of Kenya bond yields are set to enter a sweet spot as food inflation turns lower and investors seek to snap up double-digit yields, which hold up when translated into hard currency. Stock market investors are increasingly looking as if they're looking to take some chips off the table and book some gains. Bloomberg headlined a story Friday, "Murder Part of Drama at Kenya's sugar miller, up 50% in a month." And the first paragraph reads, "The company's chief executive has fled the country. Its legal officer was killed in an unsolved murder case. Operations are shut for 3 months for maintenance and mounting losses mean it needs a bailout from the Kenyan government." So why has Mumia Sugar surged 50% over the past month? And I said, with our noses pressed up against the general election, the Mumia Sugar story is as loud a signal as it gets. Time to book your profits. Mumia Sugar is down 15.38% this year. The Nairobi all-share has surged to 29.234% since March the 8th. It is up 15.94% year-to-date and at 23-month highs. NSE 20 is up 13.73% year-to-date. Nairobi water is up the rationing after dam levels dropped to an all-time low. Lots of conversation about this bridge which has collapsed. Take a look at this photograph from Kenyan traffic, and there's lots of conversation and chatter around the back of that. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I am grateful.